Psalm 2. Why do the nations rage, and the people plot a vain thing? The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together, against the Lord and against his anointed, saying, Let us break their bonds in pieces and cast away their cords from us. He who sits in the heavens shall laugh, the Lord shall hold them in derision. Then he shall speak to them in his wrath, and terrify them in his fury, saying, Yet I have set my king on my holy hill of Zion. I will declare the decree. The Lord has said to me, You are my son. Today I have begotten you. Ask of me, and I will give you the nations for your inheritance, and the ends of the earth for your possession. You shall break them with a rod of iron. You shall dash them in pieces like a potter's vessel. Now therefore, O kings, be wise, be instructed, O judges of the earth. Serve the Lord with fear, and rejoice with trembling. Kiss the Son, lest he be angry, and you perish in the way, for his wrath is quickly kindled. Blessed are all those who put their trust in him. Let's detail each verse of Psalm 2, transforming it into a prayer and explaining its meaning in depth. Verse 1. Why do the nations rage, and the peoples plot in vain? Prayer. Sovereign Lord, I behold the agitation and rebellion of the nations, the empty plans and conspiracies of the peoples who rise up against your will. O God, reveal to me the futility of their efforts and the certainty that your purposes will prevail. This initial verse questions the reason for human opposition to the divine plan. Why do the nations rage describes a state of revolt and disorder among the peoples. And the peoples plot in vain reveals the uselessness of their plans against God's power and sovereignty. The prayer seeks to understand the nature of this resistance and reaffirm confidence in the supremacy of divine purposes. Verse 2. The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together, against the Lord and against his anointed, saying, Prayer. Almighty Lord, I see the leaders and authorities of this world uniting in opposition to you and your anointed one, Jesus Christ. They rise up in defiance, plotting together against your authority and your redemptive plan. This verse describes the union of earthly powers against God and his Messiah. The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel. Together illustrate the coalition of world leaders in opposition to divine purposes. His anointed refers to the Messiah, the Christ. The prayer acknowledges this historical and contemporary opposition, maintaining faith in the final victory of Christ. Verse 3. Let us tear off their fetters and throw their ropes from us. Prayer. Heavenly Father, I hear the voices of those who reject your authority, saying in their pride, Let us tear off their fetters and throw their ropes from us. They desire to free themselves from your laws and your dominion, seeking autonomy and independence from you. This verse quotes the words of the rebels, expressing their desire for freedom from the authority of God and his anointed one. Their fetters and their ropes symbolize the divine restrictions and commandments that they wish to break and reject. The prayer recognizes this attitude of rebellion and the human search for self-sufficiency. Verse 4. He who sits in the heavens laughs. The Lord holds them in derision. Prayer. O Lord, who dwells on your heavenly throne, I know that your sovereign gaze contemplates this rebellion with holy irony. Your divine majesty mocks the futility of their plans, for they cannot prevail against your infinite power. This verse describes God's reaction to human rebellion. He who sits in the heavens laughs. The Lord holds them in derision, expresses the divine perspective on the insignificance and futility of human opposition before his infinite power and wisdom. The prayer seeks this same perspective of confidence in God's sovereignty. Verse 5. Then he will speak to them in his wrath and terrify them in his fury, saying, Prayer. Just and holy God, I know that your patience has limits, and that your wrath will manifest against those who persistently reject your dominion. In your fury, you will terrify them with your justice, revealing the seriousness of their rebellion. This verse describes God's final response to persistent opposition. Then he will speak to them in his wrath and terrify them in his fury, indicates a divine judgment that will bring fear and recognition of his justice to those who rebel. The prayer recognizes the seriousness of divine wrath against impenitence. Verse 6. I have set my king on Zion, my holy hill. Prayer. Emmanuel, God with us, I recognize you as the king whom the Father anointed on Zion, his holy hill. Your reign is established by divine decree, and your authority is supreme over all the earth. This verse declares the divine decree of the Messiah's enthronement as king. I have set my king on Zion, my holy hill, affirms the choice and investiture of Christ as the king established by God in his kingdom. Zion is frequently used to represent the people of God and his kingdom. The prayer recognizes the anointed kingship of Jesus Christ. Verse 8. Ask of me, and I will make the nations your heritage, and the ends of the earth your possession. Prayer. King of kings, I know that the Father has granted you dominion over all nations and over the ends of the earth as your inheritance. I pray that your kingdom advances and that all nations may come to know you and submit to your lordship. This verse reveals the extent of the dominion that the Father grants to the Son. Ask of me, and I will make the nations your heritage, and the ends of the earth your possession, demonstrates Christ's universal authority over all nations. The prayer intercedes for the advancement of Christ's kingdom and for the salvation of all peoples. Verse 9. You shall break them with a rod of iron and dash them in pieces like a potter's vessel. Prayer. Just judge. I recognize that those who persist in their rebellion against you will face your judgment. Your justice will prevail, and opposition will be broken like a potter's vessel under an iron rod. May all bow before your authority, before the day of your righteous judgment arrives. This verse describes the final judgment upon those who refuse to submit to Christ's reign. You shall break them with a rod of iron and dash them in pieces like a potter's vessel, illustrate the force and inevitability of divine judgment upon persistent rebellion. The prayer acknowledges God's justice and the seriousness of rejecting his reign. Verse 10. Now therefore, O kings, be wise, be warned, O rulers of the earth. Prayer. O leaders of the nations, O rulers of the earth. I pray that divine wisdom touches your hearts. Be prudent and allow yourselves to be instructed by the truth of God, recognizing the sovereignty of Christ and the futility of opposition. This verse is a call to reason and submission for world leaders. Now therefore, O kings, be wise, be warned, O rulers of the earth, is an exhortation for them to recognize the authority of God and his anointed one, and to act with wisdom. The prayer intercedes for the enlightenment and humility of leaders. Verse 11. Serve the Lord with fear and rejoice with trembling. Prayer. Holy Lord, teach us to serve you with reverence and holy fear, recognizing your majesty and power. May our joy in you be accompanied by a respectful trembling, conscious of your holiness and justice. This verse instructs on the correct way to serve God. Serve the Lord with fear emphasizes the reverence and respect that should accompany service to a holy and powerful God. And rejoice with trembling suggests a joy that is not irreverent, but acknowledges God's greatness and holiness. The prayer seeks to cultivate this attitude of reverence and respectful joy. Verse 12. Kiss the Son, lest he be angry, and you perish in the way, for his wrath is quickly kindled. Blessed are all who take refuge in him. Prayer. Jesus, Son of God, I adore you and submit to your lordship. May all recognize your divinity and honor you, so that your righteous anger does not ignite against them, and they do not perish in their way of rebellion. I declare that blessed are all those who put their trust in you. This final verse is an urgent call to submission to Christ. Kiss the Son is an act of homage, loyalty, and adoration. The warning, lest he be angry, and you perish in the way, for his wrath is quickly kindled, emphasizes the urgency of recognizing Christ's authority before it is too late. The conclusion, blessed are all who take refuge in him, offers a promise of blessing and security for those who place their faith in Jesus. The prayer expresses adoration for Christ and proclaims the blessedness of those who trust in him. Here, in this space, we will together delve into powerful words that have been a shield for countless hearts throughout the centuries. We will explore a psalm that is a true beacon of faith and a promise of divine protection in every verse. So you don't miss this transformative journey and receive more messages that nourish your soul, I invite you right now to subscribe to the channel. By doing so, You join a community that seeks strength and hope in faith. And if you believe this message can touch the heart of someone who needs comfort and security today, I kindly ask you to share this video. Be a beacon of hope in someone else's life. Together, we can spread this message of faith and protection.